Hello there, it's a Sunday morning. Thanks for joining us on Nigeria Vote Studio. I am Mike Okwache. Polls have officially closed in Nigeria's presidential and legislative elections, except in troubled areas across Nigeria where voting could not hold. The country's sixth general election since the return of democratic governance in 1999 were initially delayed by a week due to logistical problems. And on Saturday, about 120,000 polling stations opened across the country, with about 360,000 policemen deployed to ensure the votes are peaceful and credible. Saturday's ballot is expected to deliver a president, 109 senators, and 360 members of the House of Representatives. You can connect with us via social media using the hashtag Nigeria Votes. And you can also tweet at us using the handle TVC News NG and be part of what is going on right now. We have in the studio, I have my guests here already to give us analysis of what is going on. And I have with me the former chairman of Amur Dofin local government area in the person of Ayodele Adewale. Good morning. It's nice to have you join us right now. Thank you for having me. Thank you. And I have a lawyer and an analyst as well, Curtis Adigba. Curtis, good morning.
Good morning to you, Mike.
You're welcome, gentlemen.
Yeah.
All right, now we'll be crossing to our correspondents in parts of the country from the north to south, east to west. We have our correspondents who have been bringing you up to date and up to speed on all of the goings on in parts of the country. So we'll keep doing that until INEC announces the result, and that is why we are here, and that's why we are first for breaking news. So stay with us on things. Our first correspondent we'll be talking with this morning will be Tessa Makinde when the time comes, because we remember that yesterday in parts of Banawa in Kaduna State, the election or voting process went late into the evenings. We have to hear from him as to how that went down. But let's start with the studio as we connect with our correspondents now. Ayodele, let me start with you right here. When we compare the election between 2015 and this year, we remember in 2015 there was the introduction of smart card readers, made it unique and all of that. What do you think is unique about this election 2019?
First of all is the voter awareness. A lot of voter awareness was put in place to the extent that INEC was even sending text messages to people telling them about what is happening. And secondly is the defiance of people. Look at what happened in Borno State. As said by the governor, despite the fact that the Boko Haram did attack that morning, the people came out to vote. And the election that went into the wee of the night, people stood their ground, in most places very peacefully, and they casted their votes. And the card readers that they use this time around, they are wonderful card readers. As they put your card in it, you put your thumb in it, the card start talking and giving out your data. I think INEC should be giving a thumbs up to that.
All right. It was the first time for me to get the text message from INEC. The first time ever. And I was like, whoa, okay, this is a text. Now, how do you see the engagement between when it comes to that awareness and then keeping people updated and all of that from INEC?
Yeah, we've always said that progress in human society is incremental and that real progress is slow. But INEC has done very well. When you look at a country like Nigeria, the job of conducting election anywhere in the world is a difficult job. But it's even made much more difficult in a country like Nigeria because of the mindset of our people. That if you participate, you must win. So INEC did a fantastic job, but the jury is still out. We're waiting for the final outcome. What we are just doing now.
But with some of the skirmishes in parts of the country, especially what we heard from Bayelsa State, in Rivers State, and then little in part of Lagos, would you say it's fantastically well, if you have to describe the performance in that regard?
First and foremost, I think we must make a distinction between the role of INEC and the role of the voters. INEC didn't go out there to create any violence for anybody. INEC went out to conduct an election. It is the voters and the political parties and their supporters that created the violence. And it's significant to know that the hotspots of action in this election are essentially located in the south of the country. We've not heard anything so much from the northern part of the country. Yes, other than Boko Haram trying to disrupt the process in Borno State, I've not heard of any ballot snatching, fighting in another part of the country. But for states like Rivers, I mean, it doesn't come to me as a surprise.
In fact, Rivers State was identified as a flashpoint even before
the election. And we've always known that, because when you have a chief executive of a state always talking and threatening to cut off people's head with a machete during political rallies, you can expect these things.
You think that is a problem?
I think it's a problem because, you see, the leadership is about setting the tone, the right tone. Okay, so if you go out there and say, listen, the election is just about exercising freedom to choose, okay, and people are at liberty to do so, and they will do so in a peaceful atmosphere.
All right.
I think people will take a cue from that. But when you say, look, here we are, if you do anything, we'll cut off your head, and nothing will happen, it sends the wrong signal to people that they ought to be out there defending themselves.
Okay. All right, I understand we have Tessa Makinde now, our correspondent in Kaduna. Tessa, good morning. It's good to have you join us. It's 24 hours after the Nigerians went to the polls. And we remember that in Banawa, precisely, and part of Kaduna, the election, the voting process went late into the night. What can you tell us about the progress from there?
Yeah, the progress from there is that counting started very late after the voting process. Up till about an hour ago, as at my last check, counting was still on around the Narai axis here in Kaduna, the state capital. Generally, the people came out en masse to exercise their franchise. They've had demands to make, part of which is for INEC to consider more polling units around the Barna area because voter turnout turned out to be far more than what perhaps the ad hoc staff were expecting. So that has been the situation here. It's actually Sunday as well. I must say that people were apprehensive, or some are still apprehensive, because there has been this history of violence attributed to elections in Kaduna. In 2011, when we had the presidential elections, there was violence. We had over 800 lives lost documented. So there's that level of apprehension, especially from people who were, ready to go out to church. There's been that fear of the unknown. Are we going to experience some violence again? I had calls around 4 a.m., several people calling me and all of that. That has been the situation, but generally it's peaceful and Kaduna is peaceful.
All right, let's narrow down to Banawa and Narai areas that you mentioned yesterday. Can you confirm that everything went on peacefully there and it's been concluded?
Yeah, it was really peaceful. The people were not very happy. Talking about the voters, they were not happy that they could not, many of them came around 6, 7 a.m. to cast their ballots and go back. But many of them had to do that only around 7, 8 p.m. in the evening. They were using their flashlights to aid their voting process. But on the whole, they were peaceful. It was a peaceful process. It's one thing that even the governor told me that he has been really impressed about. The people have not been provoked at all. The conduct generally has been, it's been a smooth sail here in Kaduna.
All right, Tessam, you talked about the issue of apprehension amongst the people. And earlier in the morning yesterday, when you went out and you spoke with us for the first time, in fact, behind you then yesterday was a security checkpoint, military, the police and all of that. How has that helped in making the people feel safe?
Yeah, security presence has been really, really much here in Kaduna. Apart from the military, we also have paramilitary agencies partnering to ensure that there is no breakdown in law and order. Of course, we also have individuals, voters ensuring that no law is broken here in Kaduna. We had centers in Chukun and a few other local governments where eligible voters volunteered their vehicles, volunteered money to buy ink and markers to make sure that the process went on peacefully. That is the level of commitment from Nigerians to make sure that they contribute positively to the process. So generally, security has been, the agencies should be commended. I commend them based on what I have seen they are out in. I actually had an encounter with one of them who, tried not to be really, interesting and fair in his approach. He wanted to deflate tires of even media personnel who were out to monitor the elections. But we had to explain, explain to him that we were people on, essential services, making sure that Nigerians got every bit of the information they needed, talking about the election. So generally, security agencies have been really, really awesome. But more importantly, the eligible voter here in Kaduna has been and has demonstrated that beyond, being coerced, beyond being security agencies trying to force them or trying to let them or have them do things right, they have also been very, exemplary in their conduct.
All right, Tessem, before I let you go, if I see behind you where you're standing now, and I try to get the sense of the number of cars on the road, it seems like Nigerians are still not coming out very well on a Sunday like this.
Yeah, Mike, I got calls as early as 4 a.m. this morning. People, there is still that fear, there's still that level of apprehension that, we might just not know what the next step would be. This is Kaduna, a city that has witnessed violence over and over, especially during elections and, religious and ethnic, colorations or undertones. So this is elections. The people are determined to be peaceful. That notwithstanding, they are still taking things with a pinch of salt. People are, interestingly, a lot of them have stocked their houses. They've told me they've filled their cars with fuel. They've stocked, refilled their cylinders. There is that fear. There's that, people are just being very careful.
Right.
But the people of Kaduna State are, have made up their minds that there will be peace. The state will know peace, and they want the whole of the country to perhaps take a cue from them and be peaceful.
All right, Tessem Makinde, thank you for letting us know what's happening in Kaduna, our correspondent there. Now, idly, the election was postponed by 1 week. INEC told us that due to logistic and operational issues and all of that. If you look at the conduct of the election from everything you have monitored, has it been justified for that postponement?
Well, in a way, yes. But for me, I think INEC can do better, and they can do better. You see, there's one thing to have a very good person with good intention as the head of the INEC. What about the staff that are going to work with them? So it means that we have to put more emphasis on training and, of course, getting the right people that are going to do this job. You're not going to just recruit people ad hocly just for the purpose of doing the job. INEC should have a huge workforce that you can deploy at any time. Take, for example, some countries that have some sundry security issues like Israel and all of these countries. They take it as a mandamus to conduct some basic civic training and, of course, education for their people. When it's time to deploy the crowd, of course, they are prepared for that national assignment. But in our case, we don't have that level of education for some certain set of Nigerians. You know very well that you are going to be using the NYSC when it's time for election. So it means that you must put in the curriculum of the NYSC from day one. As soon as they are coming into camp, they're also preparing them ahead for that function of INEC. You know very well you'll be using school teachers for such purpose. So you must also find a training where the school teachers will be prepared ahead of that process. So they don't have to wait for elections. You don't have to wait for election before you prepare them.
All right. When it comes to use of ad hoc staff, a lot of people have said that when those who have been trained go out, instead of training fresh people, those who have been trained should be brought back to be re-engaged one way or the other. We've heard analysts say that before. What do you think, Curtis?
Well, it depends on so many factors.
All right.
One is availability. Are they available? Because you can't have everybody stay in one place. Some probably moved out of the country. So are you going to bring them back to the country?
And some have relocated from where they were, where they served.
So, and again, the problem we also must understand is you need a huge force to conduct election. INEC don't have that kind of funds to keep everybody on ground and say this is our staff, permanent staff, who will be required to conduct election. But I do subscribe to what he said, that we could, as a matter of fact, deliberately go out there and prepare the mindset of these people that at a certain point in time, they may be called upon to carry out this exercise.
So it seems the use of INEC for election has come to stay. So as part of their orientation, election duties and all those kind of civic duties should be inculcated now.
That's fine, but I see a better way.
Right.
And people have always said to me, oh,